Welcome to the Life and God podcast. Conversations about life and God's involvement in it. Let's get this going. He's the mayor of the city of Mulga, and he's a Christ follower. Keith Varner joins us on today's Life and God.
Let's talk about life and God.
Hello, brother.
Good evening, brother. Good afternoon. Good morning. We're in that time of day that is just, we're right in the middle of things.
That's right. This is Keith Varner, ladies and gentlemen. He goes to our church here at Mulga Baptist Church. He's the mayor of the city of Mulga. And how did you come to believe on Jesus as your Lord and Savior?
I just started at Mulga Baptist Church back when I was 14, somewhere around in that neighborhood. Some of the girls that I was friends with and kind of following behind as a young lad, their parents went to this church and they went to this church, so it kind of drawed me here. But when I got here, as they say, it kind of rubbed off on me. You know, sitting in Sunday school, sitting in church, and it started making me question where I was at. Am I going down the right path? Mm-hmm. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't get out and get into trouble and, destroy things or anything like that, but it still wasn't complete. My life wasn't complete. And so I felt like that I had prayed the prayer. I had been up to the front, but I didn't get baptized. Not until later on in life that I got actually baptized. But then kind of the ways of the world started happening and kind of got off working all the time. But I come back to Mulga Baptist Church as an adult. And it was just really ironic the way God planned all this stuff out, because absolutely He did. Absolutely He did. He was already giving me a plan. I just wasn't listening.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I just wasn't listening. The plan was there. I just didn't listen. And He kept saying, son, listen to me. Do as I'm telling you. But I just, I knew everything, so how could anybody tell me what to do? Mm-hmm. So I come back as an adult, and I got baptized. And I was going to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, living the life that I was supposed to be living. And I can remember talking to my mother about church. My mother didn't go to church. My father didn't go to church. And I was talking to them about, my dad really didn't want to hear it, but my mother would. And I'd say, you ought to come and go with me, Mother. And I'll never forget the Saturday, because I'd always mention it on Saturday before Sunday morning. And she goes, well, what time are you going to leave in the morning? And I told her, and so she got up and went with me. And my mother started coming to church here very faithfully. She gave her life to the Lord. My mother was in her late 50s, early 60s, and she gave her life to the Lord. And my mother was extremely faithful to God, which inspired me more to do right. And so I've been going here ever since. It's changed my life. Now, during that time, I backslid. I kind of got away because work was calling me so much and I was working so much. And a story that I really don't share with a lot of people, I really don't talk about. I was robbed at gunpoint. And everybody knows me knows I have a weapon on me pretty much all the time, a gun. Mm-hmm. And I had a gun in my pocket, and I was thinking, this dude has got the drop on me. And the sad part was I actually had my hand in my pocket on my gun, but his was out, pointed at me. Mine was in my pocket. Big difference.
Yeah.
And I constantly processing in my mind, how am I going to diffuse this situation? And so I felt like he blinked. And so I tried to pull my weapon and he shot me. Shot me with a .45 point blank range, probably 2 foot from me. I was transported to UAB. The unfortunate thing was nobody was with me. Nobody knew anything about it in my family. I can remember them rolling me in the emergency room, and everything just seemed, all the voices, everything seemed as a distance to me. Like, kind of like I wasn't there, but I was able to watch. And I was like, this can't be my time. This can't be my time. I'm not ready. This cannot be my time. It still brings raw emotions to me, okay? Because it's that powerful in my life. And I thought, this cannot be. And I can remember a little old lady was a nurse, and she held my hand, and she told me, it's going to be all right, son. Just take some deep breaths. I'll see you on the other side because you're still going to be here. And later, of course, I was in ICU. They had induced me into a coma. I spent a week in a coma until they started trying to bring me back out, where they felt like I could breathe on my own and do my own thing. And so every day was just, okay, today he made it. Let's see about tomorrow. We're every day is a more positive day. There's a lot of prayer during that time, a lot. So it was definitely a game changer. I think God grabbed me and said, "Look, son, you got to get right. I got plans for you, but you're not fulfilling them plans for me." That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the way I felt. I was just an old boy out here earning a living, wasn't bothering nobody. Okay, but things happen for a reason, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And God brought me through every bit of that. I'm testimony here today. I definitely think in my heart that God had much better plans for me than what I had. And so with that, I got back in church. I got back on the right path, and I've been that way ever since. And that's been well over 25 years ago.
Mm.
And I've been back on the right path. Like I said, I've never been one to dabble in the drugs or be out in the streets and drinking and running the ride. That's just never been me. I always thought I was a good person.
Mm-hmm.
But just being a good person don't get you in heaven.
That's right.
You
There's a
know?
lot of good people out there that are going to be in for a shock.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, there are going to be some people that come to church every Sunday and Wednesday that's going to be into shock because they're not living the life that they should be living.
Yeah.
And you can fake it to me and I can fake it to you, but I can't fake it to Jesus.
That's right.
And I have to be true to who I am. I have to be true to what I do. And I'm no better than anybody else. And there's people that get in bad car wrecks, bad conditions, unfortunate situations all the time. A lot of them don't make it.
Yeah. Being a mayor, that has to be quite an adventure as a believer being in that position.
Yes. Not only being the mayor, I'm the superintendent of the utility company. We have our own water and gas. So with that is the real challenge because you're dealing with people's utilities. And so, if it just belonged to me, I could make a lot of different choices where I could say, "Oh, Randy, we'll leave you on. We'll just, no worries. We'll catch it next week or the next month or the next." But I can't. I'm here for all the people. And we have to set standards. And sometimes that's challenging. Sometimes that's tough. And sometimes I hear the side of people that are in bad situations. And I feel like, and I never immediately make a judgment. I always pray about it. And I say, God, just let me leave this meeting and have the answer for what it needs to be. Because I don't know what it is right now until I meet with them. Mm-hmm. And they come in my office and tell me their story. And whatever I can do within my parameters, I'll do, to help people. That's the rewarding part of it. The not so rewarding part is when people just don't want to do what they're supposed to do, and I have to cut them off, and their children involved. Grown folks can take care of themselves, but when there's children involved,
That's tough.
that's the challenging part of my job, to balance that kind of stuff out. And I pray about it, and I said, Lord, I know, they have a responsibility too, but I do too. Just lead me, and if there's something I need to do, and I've reached out to pastors, I've reached out to our pastor, hey, these people need help, and try to get them help by kind of behind the scenes, and they never know I was involved in it. I can't share your information. I can't share how much you owe or any of that information, but I can reach out and just say, hey, you might want to call this person. I think they need some help. Won't you see what we can do for that? Tell me what I can do personally. I can contribute. I can help. I will. Them are challenges and rewarding as well.
Yeah, and the thing I think is so awesome is that being a believer in the position you're in, because of the position you're in, gives you a lot of people.
Yes.
You are in touch with people who have resources.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing because you care, because God has given you compassion for these people as a leader in the community. And, people can say that what they want to say about politicians, but thank God there are believers in politics that are willing to go out there. Yeah. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. And that's okay. We're not all called to the same thing.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad, I'm grateful. If you're a believer out there and you are actively pursuing political position to make a difference, God bless you.
Hey. Amen.
One of my friends in Pennsylvania, he's the mayor of the hometown I grew up in. And we've had some good conversations, and I'll never forget what he said to me, just completely revolutionized how I view politicians, because I was very cynical,
right,
as a lot of people are. But he told me, and he's not on the same side of the fence that I'm on politically, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
And one of the saddest things that I see the church doing, they assume all kinds of things about a person just because of the way they vote, and that's wrong.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of God-fearing, God-honoring, wonderful Christian people that I know who love Jesus that don't vote like me. So you got to get to know the person. You got to get to know who they are, get to know their story, their life, their background, find out why they believe what they believe, because it makes a difference. And my friend told me, he said, when the greatest time to be a politician is? It's when you first win an election. It's a great feeling.
Yes.
You got elected, the people chose you. It's such a high and a wonderful feeling, and you feel like, yes, I won. Now I can put my ambitions to work for the people. But after that, he knows whenever it comes to making important decisions, no matter what he decides to do, a lot of people are going to be upset with him.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter. He can make a decision that favors this group over here. Yep. Then this group over here is going to be upset with him.
That's right.
He's gotten death threats, all kinds of hate, undeservingly, because of his political affiliation.
That's right.
And because of tough decisions he has to make. Because he, like you said, he's not just trying to help these people. He's trying to do what's best for everybody, try to help as many people as he can collectively. And that's got to be tough.
What I say about that is stay true to who you are. Mm-hmm. That's just what you got to do.
Integrity.
You stay true to who you are. And at the end of the day, it's okay. Because then I can lay my head down at night and go to sleep, and I feel good about what I've done, because I'm no different today than the day these people elected me. I'm try not to be any different whatsoever.
Can you imagine what your job would be like if you didn't have your faith?
Oh, I'd be all over the board. holding grudges, you know,
Getting revenge.
getting revenge.
Using your power
Absolutely.
to
Yes,
pull some
yes,
strings.
absolutely, and so many other things that I'm so thankful that I have a father that I can talk to no matter when, what. I can stop what I'm doing right this second, and he's there waiting for me to ask him a question or just lean on him. He's waiting. He's just sitting there waiting on me. Wow. Who else has a father like that? You? You got one just like it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do lean on my faith a lot. And one of the things that I've done is immediately when I took office, I said we're going to restore prayer back into our meetings. We're going to open with prayer, and we're going to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if there's a pastor that comes to the meeting, we always have someone to lead us in prayer in the meeting. And if there's a pastor or someone like that that comes to our meeting, I'll offer the floor to him for prayer because we need it. We need it. Any event we do, I always try to include all the churches. Don't matter what denomination, because we all got the same goal. We may have different, our lanes may be wider or narrower than others, but we still on the same road to the same Jesus.
Amen.
So at the end of the day, I've always tried to include it. I know there's a separation of church and state, of your government and your faith. Just like we put in a new sign down here, we put the new sign in, and someone asked me, said, who all are we going to allow to, put things on for? Are we going to do that or yes? And I said, 100% we're going to open it to the churches. And they said, oh, what, Mayor? I said, absolutely. Well, we ain't supposed to do that. I said, sue me. I feel very comfortable with it. I said, but I tell you this, if they sue me, I got the backing of the people, because these people out here ain't going to stand for it. Because a large portion of these people out here are Christians. Mm-hmm. No matter what church they go to. And I tell them, all the churches, you got an event you want, tell us. We'll put it on the board, the new sign we purchased, and the electronic sign board.
Yeah.
And we'll put it on there. Yeah. I just think things like that, that's the plan God had for me, I believe. He said, restore that place. Put it back where it was. Put me back in first place. And I'm going to do everything I can to do that. It's a steady fight. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be, it never stops. As a Christian, you never stop fighting for your faith.
You are married. You have kids.
Yes.
Let the listeners know, how many kids you got?
I got 5.
5.
Got 5.
Some of them are adopted.
Yes.
Okay. What are their names?
Well, I got Tara's the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, Hannah, Allie, Lakin, and Caitlin.
Awesome.
So, I have, like I said, I've basically adopted 2 out of a bad situation. Their parents was on drugs, doing drugs, and they was in a very bad situation. And they reached out to authorities. The children did, because they was tired of living in that situation, and so they tried to get immediate family, to take the children so they wouldn't have to go into foster care. We was willing and able and said on go, was ready, but they really wanted an immediate family member. And that wasn't possible. So I told, my wife basically told me, we're going to do whatever it takes. We're getting them children. So I'm retired from law enforcement. I'm retired. I've been in the court system. So I had some contacts, and I'm not afraid to call on my friends, so we got an immediate hearing and we won custody of them. It wasn't easy. It wasn't just immediate, but we ended up getting permanent custody of them. We asked for no child support or anything like that. We didn't want any compensation whatsoever. We just wanted to see them to have a stable life. Okay.
Yeah.
We just wanted to be able to them to get up and focus on school, go to school, do your thing, come home, be a kid. That's all we wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so we did that. We didn't do anything special. We was just doing what we was told to do. God put all that right in our lap, and we was obedient to it.
Awesome. And how did you and Leanne meet?
Through a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
I was working and had come out of a bad relationship. That she was recently divorced, so she came out of a bad relationship, and a mutual friend of both of ours that we had no idea this one knew her or knew me, said, "Hey, I got somebody. She's a really good person." I said, I ain't interested, you know, thank you, but no thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, really, Keith, I really think that you would really like this. She's a good girl. That's what they all say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want no more. I'm good, you know. So, you know, you just can't fight God's faith. You just can't. And so we met. We went out, we dated for a while, and I realized that she was the one. And we married, and we have
been married for around 25 years
yeah,
now.
oh yeah, for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped counting after 10. You don't need me counting no more.
You're just glad that you wake up every morning and she's there.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
I don't worry about how long it's been. How many more do we have?
Yeah.
That's that. You know, how many more God's going to give me?
Yeah. In what ways has God used Leanne to help you? And if it's one thing I know about a women in a marriage relationship, you know, when God said, "I will create a helper for you," He wasn't kidding.
No.
And I am grateful, extremely grateful for how God has used my wife to help me.
Yeah.
I'm a better man because of her.
Mm-hmm.
How has God used Leanne in your life at times? Is there anything that stands out to you where she has been instrumental in helping you be a better version of yourself?
Yeah, because I've struggled with being quick-tempered. I fly off the handle. Well, I'll tell you what I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hate that it hurts your feelings, but it's the truth. And Leanne often, she will check me on that. She'll say, "Keith, that wasn't right. Don't be so harsh. You can say the same thing and not be so harsh. Why'd you have to tell me that?" You know, because then it starts weighing on me and I start thinking about it. And yeah, you're right. You know, so absolutely, she has always kind of been that balance for me. And that's how you know that's the one God chose for you, because we balance each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when she's like, "This ain't gonna work out," I said, whoa. You don't know what God's gonna do. You know, so we balance each other with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll tell you, it'll work. I'm telling you, it'll work. I just have full confidence that this is gonna work. And so we balance each other with that. You know, she curbs because raising children, you know, I believed in ruling with an iron fist. I mean, these are the rules we go by, and we don't break them. We don't bend them. We don't do this is what we do. And this is how we do it.
Does that, do you think that was largely influenced by your military background, or your law enforcement background, I should say?
Probably.
Yeah. The
Probably.
discipline.
Yeah, because there was no gray area.
Yeah.
It's either black or it's white. That period. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. No other way. And so she would often come in and she'd say, she didn't correct me while I was scalding the children or grounding them or whatever I was going to do. It was the aftermath that nobody ever saw. We'd go in there and she'd pull the door to behind me, and I was like, oh, Lord. She'll say, Keith, let's talk about that. Just me and you, they don't know this, you know. And I'm like, no, you know, why are you questioning what I do? Look, you're and so that was my defense mode. I was putting up my defenses. But what I learned was let's talk about this. And then when we talked about it, I'd realized that maybe I was a little tough, you know. But there was times that I needed to be tough, raising children, but not all the time.
That's right.
Sometimes you just need to pick them because, Lord, what would I do if God was that tough on me?
I was just going to say, I was listening to Michael Card podcast. I like to listen to him, and he was talking about, you know, the Torah. You know, if you do this, God is saying, if you do this, then I will do this.
Right.
If you are faithful, you know, and you're obedient, I will bless you. If you're rebellious and do wickedness, I will punish you. And so the problem is that many of us are guilty of putting God in that box and thinking that's how he is about everything, and it's not. And he went on to say, you know, he has a daughter who, at the time this podcast was recorded, I imagine it was several years ago, but he said that she was in her 30s. And he said, but when Katie was a little girl, I would tell her, now, Katie, if you clean your room like I asked you, I will give you some M&Ms. But if you don't clean your room, Daddy's going to spank you. Now, he said, what would that look like if my daughter, who is now in her 30s and has a daughter of her own, were come over to my house today, and I would say, now, Katie, if you wash the dishes, I'll give you some M&Ms, but if you don't, Daddy's going to spank you. It's like, that would seem kind of dirty, wouldn't it? Why? Because Katie is no longer a little girl. And he said, that's how God is with us. There are seasons in our life, there's times in our life, especially when we need to grow and learn, where God needs to be strict and disciplined and teach us some lessons that hurt. But he's not always like that. He's also a loving Father who wants the best for us and oftentimes will give us what we don't deserve.
That's right.
When we should have the hammer swung, and he holds it back. And he carries you, and he graciously, softly, at times, corrects you.
Thank God for grace.
And that's what I love about my wife and the way God designed a wife is to be that kind of help. Because women, especially compared to men, are far more relationally functional and aware of when the flesh is at work. And we are so mechanical in the way that we respond to life. We can be relational, but that's not our wheelhouse.
Right.
We have to learn how to be more sensitive, more patient, more loving, and all that. And that's great. It's the beauty of it. They are very valuable to us, but we're also very valuable to them in that we can help guide them and lead them and minister to them like Christ would, you know, like we are to treat our wives like Christ treats us as his church. That we are to just be there for them and encourage them and at times help them realize, hey, it's going to be okay. Have there been times in your life, situations you found yourself in or your family, where something happened and you knew without any doubt that God was all over it and it was a God moment?
All the time. All the time. I get myself in situations, sometimes, you know, I see things that go on. I think, what in the world are we going to do? And I have to go and get on my knees. And I just say, God, take control. I can't fix this. I cannot fix it. I don't know what to do. My wife is the onlyest child. And she was very, very close to her mother. And when her mother abruptly passed away, she was devastated. I mean, absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
Now, her mother was a ordained minister. She didn't preach. She didn't do any of that stuff because she didn't think that was the female calling. But she was there. That's how far she went in her religion. And she was, in my eyes, the person, if you was trying to strive to get close to Jesus, step in her steps, because she's there.
Yeah.
And when she passed away, my wife questioned everything. Why at such a young age did you take my mother? And so that was a trying time during them times. And, and I leaned on God. God, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. I can't fix this, and God worked it all out. And now my wife says she sees the health that my mother-in-law was in. She was a real bad diabetic, and she sees these things that was going on, and she says, now my wife says, I know why she went early. God did not want her to go through all that pain and that suffering. And he said, my child's not going to go through that. And he took her. And that's what she believes. And that gives her comfort that God took her early only because there was bad things coming down the road health-wise. Mm-hmm. And so that she has comfort in. And I couldn't explain that. I prayed and prayed. I said, we have to give her something. She has to have something because she's falling apart.
Yeah.
And that has give her comfort. And that's God. That's God explaining. Because I told her, I said, baby, you just got to pray about it. You're just going to have to pray. We'll pray together. We'll pray separately, different times, but that's just something we're going to have to pray about, and God may not explain why he did that. He may not. You may not get the answers you're looking for.
Getting back to Michael Card again, something else I learned from him the other day. He was pointing out that very thing, that the answer is God's presence.
That's right.
We think we got to have an answer, God. God, you have to respond to this question. You have to answer me. Job, right. He was talking about Job, and he said, if you look at that story, God never once answered any of Job's questions, but he showed up.
That's right.
And by his showing up, he actually had a bunch of questions for Job. But it's crazy how God operates, because he's so not like us, to where we think, God, if only you would answer this question, then I can get past this. Mm-hmm. But he knows far better than we do, that the answer is not the answer. The answer is him. Mm-hmm. And hey, you folks listening to this, I'm not a theologian. I'm not an expert on God. But I know what Michael Card was talking about when he said that God's presence is the solution. Because when you experience God's presence, you experience his love, you experience you can't even put it to words. He shows up in so many ways in our life. But when he shows up, you have peace. You have this supernatural healing that takes place in your soul and in your mind. I went through a very dark period not too long ago, and it lasted 1.5 years, where I never in my wildest dreams thought I would question my faith, but there I was. I was anchored in my faith in Jesus and in the reality of God, because there's too many moments in my life, milestones, where I look back and I'm like, well, that was definitely God. And I know that Jesus was real, but everything else was in question for me. And I ended up getting a beef with God. I was like, God, why this? Why that? I was very upset and frustrated over certain things that I was wrestling with, and I wanted answers. I felt, God, I deserve answers. I never got those questions answered, by the way. But what ended up happening was God allowed me to experience what it's like without him being there and present. And I started to miss the joy that I had. I missed being, I don't know how else to say it, but being with him and walking through life with him and having that encouragement and that sense of hope and that, hey, God is with me. And you just have that sense of purpose that you don't have when his presence isn't around. And I began to experience that longing. God, I just miss you. And it got to the point to where those questions didn't matter anymore. Because I'm like, God, I care more about just being right with you again and having that joy that only you can bring, the peace that only you can bring, that the world can't offer me. I want that more than these questions getting answered. And that's where you find the peace. And that's why Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And that is so true. He is the answer. You may have questions out there that you're wrestling with. You may have a beef with God like I did and think you deserve some answers. I want to encourage you, don't get too hung up on that, because we are so unlike he is. We are so fallen. We are so limited in our understanding. And the enemy would love nothing more than to distract you from what God wants to give you and wants to do in your life. And so, please, turn your eyes upon him.
Amen.
And just lean on him. Focus on him. Don't worry about all of these issues in life. What's going on in this country? What's going on in the political world? What people are doing in Washington. That's the way of the world. The world is falling apart. The scripture tells us that the lust of the eyes and the pride of life and the vanity, as Ecclesiastes so eloquently points out, this world is full of people pursuing their own gratification and pursuits, and it's all vanity and grasping for the wind. Jesus is the only, if I may dare say a thing, but Jesus is the only thing that matters in this life. He's the only person that can rescue you.
You talking about question, I often sit back and I thought, boy, if I could just ever reach the status of a millionaire, the things I could do in life. And I thought, God, let me have some of that money and let me do good with it. It would be so, I don't know, I'm sure they would get joy out of it too, but my heart would be so full if I was able to go out in the world and say, Randy, let's go pay you your Christmas bill off. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Man, that would just do me. And then I see people that has the resources to do that. God has blessed them. And they have the resources to do that. And they're scared to spend $1.
Yeah, that's, God knows better than we do about what we can handle and what we would do with money like that. But I'm the same way. I feel the same way. You are a mirror of me right now. That is my heart. My wife and I love when we're able to help somebody in the community. It feels so good. You all heard the saying, it's better to give than to receive. You could take that to the bank. There's no better feeling than being able to contribute and help someone out who has a genuine need that will improve the quality of their life. It is so worth it. And just imagine the impact that the church would have, because they're just out there. We're not judging anybody in particular, but they're out there. There are people sitting in church pews who have plenty of money that they could give. So if that's you out there, you got more money than you can handle that you really need, please ask the Lord how he may be able to use that abundance that you have to make someone else's life better in his name, because like you said, it's his. And I'm not against people being wealthy. I mean, I wish I was. my life would certainly look a lot different. I'd have much more freedom over my schedule and being able to do more. But you know what? God's plan is the best plan.
That's right.
And Brother Keith and I may never be rich. And that's okay, because God's plan is better than our plan. And money is as good as money can be in the right hands. A good heart is far more powerful.
Absolutely.
Because the treasures that we're trying to store up are the treasures in heaven. I can only imagine the impact Jesus had when he walked this earth, as he was out there ministering to people and touching people's hearts and caring and loving on people that the world rejected, that the communities rejected, to heal the leper and to touch the leper and love on him. I mean, that's where it's at, man. Going out there and loving one another like he loves us. That's
what I call getting down in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
Getting down in the trenches with them. Because at the end of the day, I'm one paycheck away from where they're at.
Yeah. Us too. We're about to wrap up. I want to end this on a joke that's relative to what my brother just said, and hopefully I can not butcher it. Again, this is not theological. This is just a joke. But an angel came to take this wealthy man who had just passed away to heaven. And the man begged and pleaded to the angel. He said, "Please let me take some of my gold with me." And the angel's like, "We're really not supposed to do that." And he's like, "But please, that's all I'm asking. I mean, I if anything, can I please take my gold with me?" And the angel says, "Okay." So he takes his suitcase and he shoves as much gold as he can get in there. And he's dragging that thing with him into the pearly gates. And Peter was at the gate, and he looks to this other saint, and he goes, "What is that guy doing?" And so as he's dragging it through the gate, the luggage breaks open, and all this gold spills out. And Peter goes, "Why on earth did this guy bring concrete with him?" Do you get it? Streets of gold.
Streets of gold.
And that's unfortunately the state of many people in this life. You spend your life chasing after things, and that's all they are, is things.
That's right.
Because when it comes to the next life, none of that's going to matter.
Nope.
And God is not going to be impressed, even at all if you think you're a good person, and you very may well be as far as human standards are concerned, because none of us are good. But you may be a good person in the world's eyes, and you can do a lot of wonderful, great things. However, God didn't create us to do our own thing. He created us to be in relationship with Him. And yes, you get to do your own things. He does give us free will. However, what matters to God is our position with Him, our relationship with Him, and the way that we treat other people, and what we do in His name according to His will. And that's what's going to count for eternity, is what have you done for Jesus? And do you know Him? And if you don't know Him, all it takes is for you to believe that Jesus died for you, that He was crucified on a cross. And that may not make sense to you. You may be like, why on earth does that have anything to do with my salvation? Please get a Bible and read the book of John to start. It's a great place to start. Read the book of John. Read it a couple times if it takes it, and just ask the Lord to reveal Himself to you. And I believe He will if you are sincere and you really want to know Him. I'm telling you, Brother Keith will back me up on this. Jesus is real.
Amen.
He loves you.
Amen.
He wants to change your life, and He will do it if you sincerely want Him to. So believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, that He is the only begotten Son of God who paid the price on the cross for your sins. And you turn from your sin and you ask God to forgive you and become the Lord of your life. And He will. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Keith.
Hey.
And I just pray that God will use this conversation to reach some folks out there and minister to them as he wants to. I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. If you are interested in this podcast, my plan anyway is to put out a new episode every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks on a Monday morning at midnight, I should launch this podcast. So be looking for it. And if you want to contact me, if you have a testimony to share, if you feel led to be a potential guest on this program, you can email me at hughesrandyj@gmail.com. God bless you and have a great one.
Thank you.